That was the hardest part for us, getting in the ring.
Well, we had loads of momentum.
Can I just remind everybody of something?
Please, sir.
Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man. I got to get that out of my system at least once a day.
That's healthy. You don't want to hold that in, do you? Incidentally, my price is lower than you'd think, but higher than it should be. So, I for one, I mentioned this, you may have heard in the back, as a fan first and a comic and a presenter second, this to me is, I'm currently flanked by two of the people that shaped my wrestling fandom. In the 80s and 90s, it was the larger-than-life characters that made wrestling for me. The $1 Million Man, who I first saw in an arcade game. There's No Way Out, the $1 Million Dream, I think it was in that one. And I saw you cut a promo on Sky One, and it blew my mind. So, for me and for everyone here, thank you for being part for the love of wrestling. Thank you for coming and helping us celebrate the sport, the art of professional wrestling. Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, I can also speak for Ted. I think, thank you for having us, because it's pretty cool to come over here and to have all you fans come and give us some homage for our work that we did in the wrestling business.
Absolutely. All the fans. We've been here for this long weekend, and just everybody we've met, whether it's here in this building, at the hotel, wherever we go, the fans have just been phenomenal. So again, thank you very much.
We're all here because we love it. That's the thing we've got in common. So I'm going to ask you about this, because when as little 15-year-old Chris Brooker, I did not see Money Inc. coming as a team. To me at that point, does anyone remember, shout out, at the Royal Rumble that year, the Legion of Doom were feuding with a different team. Who was it? You've let yourselves down badly, all of you. Natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon, we all thought that was going to be the story, and it felt like the team came out of nowhere. Was that what happened for you guys, or was it? Well, tell us about how Money Inc. came to be.
Well, I think, Ted was established as the $1 Million Man when I went back and started my heel run with WWE and became Erwin R. Shyster, IRS. And I think, Vince kind of looked at it like this is a perfect meeting between two people that can work, with Ted being the rude millionaire that he was, and I was Ted's crony as being the crooked IRS tax man. So it was a match made in heaven in that aspect. And, like I've told people over the years doing IRS, nobody likes to pay taxes. So it's when you call people tax cheats and they still have to pay taxes, it's pretty easy to get heat in that aspect.
I couldn't have said it any better.
Perfect stuff. And it went on for a team that sort of came out of nowhere. You had a year and a half run, and people are still talking about it. Some amazing matches. Let's go out to the floor. Where are you, Tony? Over here. Let's get some questions.
We'll go over here first. See you over here.
Work the room.
You both faced a load of legends while she was in WWE. Who was your favourite match and why?
What was that one? Who was your favourite match and why?
What was your favourite match in WWE?
So
and why?
in WWF/E, what was your favourite match and why?
Oh gosh, you have so many matches. Fans ask us that all the time. What was your favorite match? Who was your greatest opponent? But you got to understand, we wrestled literally 7 days a week. It was even worse when Mike started, when IRS started. But when I got there, we would do 3 solid weeks, 21 days, 21 cities, all over the U.S. and Canada. And then we'd go home for a week. And the first day off, you spend half that day getting home. The last day off, you're going back to work. So you really only have 5 full days at home in a month. It was brutal. So we were constantly going and going and going and going. But, I would say, and I don't know if Mike and I haven't really talked about it, but I guess the culmination of that, is when we ended up, going to face the Road Warriors at Wembley Stadium. What was that, the summer of '92? And and I would think that was probably, and it ended up being a great match. There were reasons why we were worried about it a little bit, but it ended up being a really good match. So I would say, yeah, Wembley '92, and I would also say, I don't know about you, but I think that's the largest crowd that either of us have ever wrestled in front of at Wembley.
Yeah, that's right. It's also a great experience when we were the co-main event at WrestleMania in Las Vegas. We shot an angle with Beefcake, and then Hogan came to his rescue, and that was a huge match for myself. And when people ask me what my favorite match is, that I can remember, I usually just tell them all the ones that I won.
And when you're the bad guy, they are few and far between.
It's relevant again this year because for the first time since 1992, we've got wrestling in Wembley Stadium this year with AEW, with All In. Most wrestlers never get a chance to wrestle anywhere that big, that vast. You both did, obviously, in Wembley and other WrestleMania shows. What's it like to work in a place like that as opposed to your normal arenas?
Well, I mean, it's just, I remember when we walked out to the ring in Wembley, it wasn't until I got in the ring and I'm standing in the middle of the ring, and you put the ring in the middle of the field at Wembley, and then look around you, and not only are all of the bleachers absolutely packed, but everything else was just solid people. It was pretty breathtaking for me, and also a proud moment that I was part of that show, that we were part of that show. And but you know what? When the bell rings, it's like, I don't want to call it automatic pilot, but you put everything else out of your head, and then you concentrate on the match. But part of concentrating on the match for a wrestler, listening to the crowd and reading the crowd as you go, helps you make the decisions you need to make along the way during the match to make that match the best match you can make it.
I think too, as opposed to being in an arena where there's a top over the building, you get a delayed reaction because you'll do something, and by the time it filters the sound waves through the whole stadium, you're getting a delayed reaction to where we're standing in the ring, doing what we're doing. So it's a little different, but like Ted said, basically, once the match starts, you put that out of your mind and you just kind of work, concentrate on what you're doing in the ring, and then the reactions will come from that.
Perfect stuff. Tony, you got a question?
Yep.
What was it like, Ted, in your most recent run in NXT and working with LA Knight and Cameron Grimes, given how big LA Knight's taken off, and hopefully Cameron Grimes will as well soon?
I had a blast. I mean, I had, I'm on a, or I don't know, I'm on what they call a Legends contract. So I make myself available to them, and I'm at their disposal, if they should happen to call me anytime. And it's rare. And so that was one of those rare times where they called me and they said, look, we've got one of our young guys here. His name is Cameron Grimes, who legitimately invested in the stock market and hit big, and overnight, got a whole lot of money. And so we've come up with this storyline where we're gonna have him start acting like you, and then have me come along and, like, for example, he's in a jewelry store and he's buying a watch, and so he holds up this beautiful, gold Rolex. It's diamond studded and everything. And I walk up behind him, and and I hold up this diamond bezeled watch that is just diamonds everywhere, and I say, "Nice watch, kid, but it's not $1 million watch." And then I go and walk out the door and just leave him there going, you know. And I continued to do things. Anyway, we just had fun with it for a while, and it actually went a little longer than they anticipated that it was going to go because it basically got over so well. But yeah, and I also when LA Knight got involved, I saw the skill that he had as well. I mean, they were talking. The focus first was on Cameron Grimes, but I saw the talent in LA Knight, and you know, I mentioned that to a couple people, and they said, "Yeah, we know." And this has helped bring that out in him too. And obviously, he's moved on up, but I don't think Cameron has yet.
That's a good question. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, thanks yesterday. Got pictures with you. My cousin's a massive fan of you, by the way, and my little nephew still plays with the IRS dolls and stuff. Like, anyway, I really liked your work in WCW because I'd only seen you in like the WrestleManias and things working together. When you came over, as I said, I'm watching Reliving the War. It seemed a little like Bret Hart, where just from watching it, it's like they didn't know what to do with you when you went over to WCW. My question for you both is, what was the best bit and the best part and worst part of working for WCW as opposed to WWF?
Well, you know, WCW, you know, it's kind of like nobody, I don't think anybody saw that coming. I know I didn't see it coming. And when I initially went back to, when I physically stopped wrestling, which was largely due to a neck injury, and I started commentating and managing, and that was all going pretty well. And then Vince started putting me out on the road more as a manager, and I really wasn't happy with that. And so when the opportunity came for me to go to WCW and be a manager and only seriously have to be there 1 or 2 days a week, that appealed to me, and that's why I jumped, and that's why I went. But hindsight being 2020, when I look back at that now, when I got there, I really wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed with the way they were booking. I wasn't, there were like too many Chiefs and not enough Indians, in my opinion. And so, and I said it, not too long after I got there. I said, this is not going to last. I said, and this organization will never be able to beat Vince McMahon. And that was proven to be true, so.
I think in my case, when I left WWE the first time, I left as a babyface, and I went back to WCW, and I got a chance to turn heel, and I did the Varsity Club with Rick Steiner and Steve Williams, part with Danny Spivey, and Kevin Sullivan, and it was an opportunity for me to get some experience as a heel. And like what Ted was saying, I don't think they got enough mileage out of that. They kind of killed it off before, it could have done much more time getting better and better. But I also started to do Michael Wall Street, which they offered me a 6-month extension on my contract, and I said no. So then I went back to WWF at the time, and started doing my Irwin R. Shyster. And I think Vince saw something in there from doing Wall Street, how that could work as the dirty tax guy. More of like a business attitude, and like I said, put him with the rich guy, and they're both crooked. So that was probably my best run as a heel in the business. Being IRS, obviously, because WWE's television networks are huge. You go around the world and do tours everywhere, so that kind of worked itself out for me, and it was a great experience. being with Ted. We had a lot of fun, and and then Ted hurt his neck, and I did some single stuff for WWF at the time, and it just worked out well. So I'm proud of that era in my life, because I think it was some of my best work that I did in the business.
Fantastic. Great question. Tony. Here we are.
Hi, it's a pleasure to have you here. I've lost my voice. If you could have anyone play or be Money Inc. now, who would it be and why?
So that was, if you could have people be Money Inc. today, who would that be and why?
Ooh. So if they were to do a Money Inc. 2.0 or a new Money Inc., who would you imagine could make the same kind of dynamic with you guys?
To me, that's really hard to say, I mean, and it's a situation that you don't know until you try. But, if they were really serious about doing something like that, it would be take some research to see, where everybody's at, what their body of work is up to that point, what kind of promos they're, that they are willing and able to do. I think it could be done. I think the Varsity Club could be another group or faction that could be well used and put the right guys in there, but it would take some research.
Yeah, you'd have to you'd have to study your talent, and see what it is that they bring. It's like not just their in ring ability, but how good are they on the microphone. And it takes I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Type of individual to broadcast that. It's like I had one of the greatest wrestlers in my opinion. He was a very good friend of mine. He's an old guy. His name is Dick Murdoch, and he was as country as the day is long. I mean, he wore cowboy boots, he wore a cowboy hat, he drove a four-wheel drive pickup truck, and I mean, he lived that. And that was basically, and they ended up calling him Captain Redneck. And he more or less lived that way. So here's a guy who not only in the ring fit the character, but out of the ring, Now I wasn't, and neither was Mike, like a tax cheat or whatever, and the heel on the outside of the ring. But what we brought and the way it came together, I was the $1 Million Man for I don't know how long, and then this thing with Mike just evolved, and it just ended up being a perfect fit. And that's like happens a lot of times. I mean, it's kind of like, when you turn on the TV or you go to the movies, you see these stars, and you see new stars blossom. Well, for every new star you see blossom in Hollywood, there's 20 or 30 of them that are just as good as that person that never get the chance. It's all about being at the right place at the right time, and excuse the expression, but shit happens. and it just worked out. And for us, it worked out that way. And I don't know if that helps you or not.
It's perfect. I mean, it's connection, isn't it? Connection is the key. And we couldn't imagine anyone else being the $1 Million Man. No one else could have brought it to life like you could have. It could have done 2 weeks and gone away. And the same with if someone had come up to you at a different point in your career and said, "Hey, do you want to be a wrestling taxman?" You'd have told them to, yeah, no thank you. But very much the time as well, the right place at the right time, because in the 80s and the 90s, it was absolutely cutting edge as well. Those characters were absolutely on the pulse. Do you think timing's a big part?
Well, yeah, obviously timing has something to do with it too, but I think also, like, when you're teamed with someone, you have to have a connection in the ring, and that didn't take Ted and I long to establish, because once you work with somebody and you're on the same page, you kind of know what the other one's thinking before you even have to say anything. And if he's doing a certain thing, tags me in, I know right where to go to continue what he just started, or vice versa. If I was in there.
Yeah, it's like reading each other. It's kind of like, Mike could do something, and whether I saw it before or not, or he would go to do something, and I would instinctively know what he was about to do, and then I would try to capitalize on that as part of our team. Anyway, if that makes any sense.
And I think that's what makes good teams. They gel together. It's not like one's out there trying to do this and the other one gets in there and he takes the action a whole different way. It doesn't make sense. But if you can gel with someone, then you're only going to get better putting in time in the ring with each other.
Wonderful, thank you. I mean, to hijack for a moment again, as this is the love of wrestling, I want to talk about the love of something in particular, because you're here, this Q&A is primarily as you both as a tag team, and tag team wrestling is very different to a singles match. What do you love specifically about tag teams as wrestlers, tag team wrestling? What did you enjoy most about tagging with each other?
Well, just that it just fit. It was like, it wasn't like something that was Vince McMahon. Oh, I've got this idea, and this guy's going to be my my aloof, pompous ass rich guy, and then I'm going to have this other. I mean, Vince wasn't even thinking about his character when I became the $1 Million Man, but as it just started naturally happening, I think that's the beauty in it. And a lot of things happen like that. It's like, you're going one direction and all of a sudden you realize, wow, we've got something right here that's better than where I was going. And I think that's what happened with Mike and I, and that the fact that we got along so well, and that our work was compatible, and that makes all the difference.
I think too, when an idea is put on a team, for instance, then the team has to think together to where to take it. It doesn't have to be all plotted out, and because a lot of times if you try to do that, that's not going to work. But once they put us together, then we started thinking about how can we make this better. And that's part of learning how to work. Then you play off of each other and you make it the best that you possibly can. And that was easy for us because we were very compatible.
Perfect, wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Tony, you got a question?
I've got two actually. One for Ted. Watching the old MidSouth tapes, I kind of feel that there are two versions of Ted DiBiase: the worker in MidSouth and the $1 Million Man in WWE. Was that adapting to WWE style that you had to change your wrestling style, or was it that working for Bill Watts?
Oh, well, I think I know what you're trying to say. When you say the worker in the Mid-South as opposed to the character in the WWE, the only thing that changed about me was the character. In other words, as a heel in the WWE in Mid-South, I was just a heel, and I wrestled like a heel. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, Vince McMahon put this funny costume on me with dollar signs on it and all that stuff, and now I'm this big, boisterous, butthole that everybody hates. But when I got in the ring and I took that suit off, nothing in the ring changed. Nothing about what I did and how I acted changed in the ring, because in the ring I still had to work and perform. So I think that's the best way I can answer your question. So.
Can I throw a little cap on that as well? When Vince gave you the suit and the money signs and everything else, was there a little part of you that went, do you know what, I'll say yes to this for a bit, then I'll go back to being the old Ted DiBiase? Was there any part of that?
No, I don't think so.
No, committed, that's it. And did you have another question, sir?
So your era arguably produced the biggest stars in wrestling. What do you feel the modern guys are missing to be on your level or to have your level of character work and or stardom at the time?
Did you get shot?
I think that, in my opinion, characters work better, because if everybody's wearing the same tights, the same boots, and you don't have that character, then it's hard to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. And that during our era, there were a lot of characters, and that made it easier for us, because somebody going out there with a different character isn't going to be talking about tax cheating or acting like the $1 Million Man. In my opinion, the characters helped, because that gave you a direction in your mind, and then the rest was up to you to get what you were doing over in the ring and on the mic.
And there were always characters, whether they were described as such. But what Vince McMahon did is he took wrestling and he moved it in the direction of basically kids. I'm going to almost make cartoon characters. I mean, like Hulk Hogan was the ultimate good guy. What you gonna do, brother? And he became the ultimate hero. Well, the ultimate hero always have to have an ultimate villain to fight, and that's basically what Vince did with the colorful costumes and all that things. And of course, he was thinking down the road, because he was thinking about all the merchandise he was going to have based on all of these new characters that he developed. But even before Vince did that, it's like I'm trying to think. Well, like my buddy Dick Murdoch, great wrestler. He could be a good guy or a bad guy, But he ended up being this heel cowboy character. That was who he was. And then there was another guy that was a manager, and I can't think of his name now. Oh shoot! But anyway. He wore a turban and the whole deal, like an Arab guy, and he was a manager. So, but he was a character.
Grand Wizard? Wizard, was it? Grand Wizard of Wrestling?
No, it wasn't the Wizard. It was.
I think what Vince did too, by doing characters, he made the characters marketable. They all had a different persona, and that's. Like Ted was talking about down the road, WWE's made so much in merchandise, it's unbelievable. And, that I think was in the back of Vince's mind, to taking the wrestler, putting this on him, now I have a character. Like, as in a movie, some characters stick out in a movie and you either like that character or you dislike that character. And I think that was the mindset, to make everybody marketable.
I hope that covers that for you. So to stand out is the key as well, to be unique. Tony, I think we've got time for one more question.
What did Vince do when you done something wrong?
I'm sorry, what?
What did Vince McMahon do when you done something wrong?
He would let you know. I know it said.
The question was, in his calm, measured way, how did Vince McMahon gently let you know that you'd made a mistake?
Well, he never did it in a kind, quiet way. He always let. Oh, you knew when you had screwed up, or when he thought you had screwed up, you were going to know about it, and it wouldn't happen again. So
you had to have a thick skin.
Yep.
Well, there we go. Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of this again. I mean, you both come to For the Love of Wrestling in the past. I believe you were at the first one in 2019, back before society collapsed briefly, and you joined us last year. And thank you for bringing the love and the energy to close out the entire weekend. Fans, please give your appreciation to Money Incorporated, the team of Erwin R. Scheisser, and the $1 Million Dan, Ted DiBiase. Do you have any final words for our guys here?
Thank you guys as well. You guys made this.
And don't forget to pay your taxes.
And remember, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
2, you can take...